This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
The U.S. has bought nearly 2.5 million barrels of oil to help replenish the Strategic Petroleum Reserve after the largest sale ever from the facility in 2022, the Energy Department said on Friday. About 800,000 barrels per month of the domestically produced sour, or relatively high in sulfur, oil will be delivered to the reserve's Bryan Mound, Texas site from January to March next year, it said. The department said on August 12 it had planned to buy up to 6 million barrels, at a rate of 2 million per month from January to March. It did not immediately respond to a query on whether the remaining 3.5 million barrels could be bought for the Bryan Mound site for delivery in that time period.
U.S. light crude oil gained more than 2% a barrel on Friday after comments by U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell indicated the central bank was preparing to cut interest rates. Brent crude futures settled up by $1.80, or 2.33%, at $79.02 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures finished up $1.82, or 2.49%, at $74.83. The pivot by the Federal Reserve is real, said Phil Flynn, senior analyst at Price Futures Group. It's impacting all commodities. This week, both benchmarks hit their lowest since early January, after the U.S. government sharply lowered its estimate of jobs employers added this year through March, raising fears of a possible recession.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The amount of Russian oil flowing to European countries via Ukraine rose to 1.09 million metric tons in July from 540,000 tons in June, Kyiv's base fuel consultancy Expro said on Friday, following complaints by Hungary and Slovakia about a major drop. From August 1-19, the oil transit volume exceeded 600,000 tons, the consultancy added. According to Expro calculations, in July, transit volumes amounted to 35,200 tons per day, and in August 33,300 tons per day, the consultancy said. The consultancy said that in July most of the oil was transported to Hungary 0.43 million tons, an 8% decline from June.
The European Commission has declined Hungary and Slovakia's request that it mediate a consultation procedure with Ukraine over sanctions imposed by Kyiv on Russian oil producer Lukoil, a Commission spokesperson said on Friday. Commission services have preliminarily concluded that urgent consultations do not appear to be warranted, the spokesperson said. The spokesperson said Brussels had no indication Ukraine's sanctions had caused a risk to European security of energy supplies, since Russian oil was still flowing through the Druzhba pipeline that links Russia, via Ukraine, to the Czech Republic, Slovakia and Hungary. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. India's silver imports are on course to nearly double this year due to rising demand from solar panel and electronics makers, and as investors bet the metal will give better returns than gold, leading importers said on Friday. Higher imports by the world's biggest silver consumer could give further support to global prices, which are close to their highest level in more than a decade. India imported 3,625 metric tons of the white metal last year. This year's purchases could rise to between 6,500 and 7,000 tons due to the rising industrial demand, said Chirag Thakur, CEO of Amrapali Group Gujarat, a leading silver importer.
Zinc futures prices climbed for a third straight session on the Shanghai Futures Exchange to their highest in over a month, underpinned by prospects of reduced supply and a seasonal uplift in demand in the coming months. The most active zinc contract on the Shanghai Exchange outperformed the base metals complex to close daytime trade 1.5% higher at 24,000 yuan, $3,363.18, a metric ton, the highest level since July 17. The metal used to make galvanized steel has gained 5.3% this month and is up 10.2% from the 4-month low of 21,780 yuan a ton set on August 8.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Canada's rail shutdown may still delay loading of some bulk grain ships at the country's west coast ports despite the government's move to end a stoppage at the nation's two largest railroads, traders and analysts said. At risk are more than 20 bulk cargo ships at or bound for British Columbia ports, as import grain stocks represent just a fraction of what is scheduled to load over the coming weeks, according to shipping industry and government data. Exporters in the world's top canola producer and number 3 wheat shipper could rack up vessel demurrage penalties totaling tens of thousands of dollars a day if ships sit idle waiting for supplies, analysts said.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.